Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Internet Flight Rules. Today, early morning, just after 5:30 here, we're just to the north of the Gaza Strip. We're going to be flying across the Gaza Strip. We're going to be doing it in the Huey helicopter. There's a little treat here. I'm going to show you my controls so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So that little red square in the top left, as I move my stick, notice you can see the stick there in the cockpit move. Notice you see the equivalent move there on that red thing. I can look around with my head so we'll be able to see what's going on. We've got this little crew status page here on the lower right hand side. I'm going to get rid of that, but notice we are carrying a gunner both on our left and our right hand sides. We will set those to return fire once we get underway, but for now let's do away with that. And so yeah, the other controls you'll see, of course, they call them the anti-torque pedals. I'll still refer to them as the rudder pedals. You can see that's that lower bar on the red there. We've also got our throttle that I have at full. We've got the governor taking care of that. And then of course we've got the collective here that'll lift up our helicopters. So those are the controls we'll be using, and I see no more reason to delay the departure any further. And so let's come up top. Actually, do you know what? It's a little distracting. Let's get rid of it for a bit. I will turn it on at some point. And we're going to turn on some lighting here in the cockpit, as well as externally. So I'm going to turn all these on to full. And if we take a look, where are we? Here we go. We've got the anti-collision lights. We'll turn that on. Position lights bright, and we've got the options between steady and flash. I think steady will do. We don't require the dome lighting. Navigation, I think this is the NVG position lights, so the night vision goggles. We'll set that to full, and with that I think we've rambled on long enough, so let's take off. So the first time flight. Tell you what, I will show the controls just for a few minutes, then I'll turn them off. So for takeoff, I'm going to smoothly add collective, and as I do, I'm going to start feeling her out and counteracting anything she wants to do. So in this case, twist to the right, opposite. And there we go. This was totally missing in Flight Simulator 2020. There, with all the realism, if you centered the rudder pedal, the helicopter would stay straight. You can see what really happens. The rotor spins one way, the helicopter's going to start spinning unless you tell it to do otherwise. So we'll put left boot in. And so I'm going to start adding power. And I've not flown the helicopter in X-Plane for some time, but I also wasn't overly impressed when I last did it. I think, in my humble opinion, the best, most realistic helicopter flying experience you can get at this moment in time is in DCS, even though that isn't always the case for every aircraft, just helicopters. Right, so let's trim. Pilot trimmer is something else interesting that's different with helicopters. Let's get a little flyby. It's that what that the Vietnam veterans talk about. Very distinctive sound, the Huey helicopter. I'll shut up and let you listen. Alright, that'll do with the flybys. Let's get back underway with the normal flying. And so I will leave my controls there on the screen just for another minute or so, and then I'll get rid of them, just so you get an idea. See that the collective, you know, between halfway and 60%. We're actually going really fast here, so I may actually reduce it a little bit. They did update the engine model in the Huey in DCS in the last in the last year anyway. And it does now fly a little faster and a little different. Those of you that flew it before will get a little bit more out of it before things start falling apart. And so, yeah, we're now entering the, as of this line here, this fence, the Gaza Bank. So please keep the comment section free from anything about that, one way or the other. I'm not interested, not for this video. This is just purely to have a poke around and demonstrate the Huey helicopter. Those interested, this is the Egypt map. Its full name, I think, is the Sinai map. It's got the pyramids, and basically we're on the northern end of the map now. Covers the Gaza Strip, much of Egypt, a few other countries as well. Includes the main supply route, the naval supply route for the ships. Look at the speed, yeah, 130 knots. It weren't possible to get 130 knots in the Huey before, not without risking the whole thing falling apart. Yeah, so here we go. The wall, double wall in that. And yeah, I was wondering, it's very possible and easily possible to overstress the aircraft. I think now Eagle Dynamics, those are the people that make Digital Combat Simulator, by default have it on, you know, there was an easy and a realistic mode. I think, I could be wrong, but I think they did away with the easy flight model a year or two ago, and they only have it on the realistic. I always found that the easy flight model on any flight sim, if it had the option between easy and realistic, I found the easy model was more difficult to fly, simply because the aircraft didn't behave in the way that you would expect. And I'm sure there will have been others that shared that viewpoint. So what's surprising me here is they've actually got a lot of, not just a lot of buildings, but some of these quite big. Of course, a lot of the buildings here are representative, so, you know, if there are medium height buildings, the game will just paint in medium height sort of pick and mix buildings. It's not the exact building and the exact design, it's just generally the buildings are in the right place, in the right quantity and density, just generally and generically, I guess. Yeah, a couple of moves and then we'll do away with those flight controls. I'll keep going on about it, but some people that have never flown the helicopter, I think it might be of interest to see exactly how I'm using the controls. And yeah, if you move them violently side to side, you will break the helicopter. It's not like a plane. There's a few other things that you've got to watch out for, mass bump and so forth, that will also spell curtains. Alright, here we go. Let's get rid of that and let's carry on our patrol. So it looks like there's some sort of petroleum spot here. Some sort of oil works or chemical works of some kind. Gotta be honest with you, I've got absolutely no clue whatsoever what sort of business and industry takes place around here. But as we can see, there are at least some industrial looking buildings. let's continue on our journey south. So that's correct, the sea to our right. And try not to hit anything along the way, because if we do, it is curtains. There's no, unlike some sims where it doesn't really matter if you hit anything, it really does buy a bit of very high speed there. A bit of very high speed, yeah. Them lamp poles, can't tell you how many times lamp poles and telegraph wires and so forth have killed me in this. I guess that's why in real life you're not really supposed to fly like this. Yeah, it feels really good. For those wondering about DCS World or Digital Combat Simulator Worlds, I own all the modules. I do run a dedicated channel for it, but it's more really to do with tutorials and so on. I never just fly around shooting the breeze like this, which is partly why I created this Internet Flight Rules channel. I wanted to be able to just fly around, shoot the breeze, as well as include X-Plane videos that, to be fair, the hardcore DCS players, a lot of them, you know, you get some overlap between those that are really into their sims as myself, but a lot of them that are just hardcore DCS, they don't want to know anything else. Flight Sim 2020 or X-Plane, you know, they're just not interested, which is understandable. By hell, asking that rotor to do its work there. What I say, man, it really is more belt. Does anybody know it's the Gaza? I mean, look at this. How many buildings have we got that are 10, 15 stories or more? And you watch, somebody says, are you really at the Gaza Strip? I don't know. Let's have a quick look at the F10 menu. There I am. So we took off here. Just check we're not crashing just to the north of the wall, and we've been messing around this region so far. And so yeah, I think this area here is, if we zoom out, the so-called Gaza Strip, I think. You watch somebody nail me on that one. Looks like they've got a nice import-export facilities here. Fishing vessels. Whoa, a little bit too low there for comfort. Got to bear it in mind, it's not just the aircraft that needs to clear the side of the buildings, it's the propeller. You're basically a big flying capital T. If you ever fly helicopters and DCS, envisage yourself as a capital letter T, and you're basically in the middle of the middle bit, and you've got a bold bit of T hanging beneath you, you've got a bold bit of T above, and then you've got a thin, you know, that makes like the bits on the left, the top of the T, the left and the right at the top. And if you can envisage that, and just remember that as you're doing your crazy moves like I like to do, you'll be fine. Obviously, exactly where does the T start and end? Well, that's where just a bit of skill and experience comes into it, and sometimes a little bit of luck as well, let's be honest. You know, you listen to all those pilots that talk about, you know, having at some point, you know, some experience where they think, oh, that was close, you know, that was so close, that was near, you know, and there's so many, especially military pilots from before everything was monitored and watched by computers, that have such a story, and then there'll be how many that were able to share such a story because they succumbed to that thing that was just a split second the other way, or a few inches it went the other way. And how many stories there are like that, either one way or the other, that could have been, or that are, coulda, woulda, shouldas. Right, how far are we away? Because we do have some enemies to shoot at. We're not just flying idly, and we see we are approaching them. So I'm going to ask my gunners. Let's get that on screen. There we go. Let's see if I can remember how to tell my gunners. Basically, I want them to, return fire both sides, left and right. So we'll do away with that page. Now we can see doors open left and right, and they're both sat on the guns, ready to go. So they will wait until being fired upon, and I'm not necessarily sure that's the best way to go. Gotta say, it's a very densely packed in area here. There's not much room for fields and things to grow, but I guess what little there is for stuff to grow, we're sort of flying over it now. Yeah, here you can see the particular makers of this map have used satellite photos. You can see here, we're overspeeding a bit, but getting a little bit of retreating blade stall there. So reducing and pulling back. So yeah, these waves don't really seem to be moving per se. They're just a photograph, which is an interesting, as much of the rest of it. I guess the texture is a photograph. Right, let's get these guys back on, and let's get them, rather than return fire, let's get them to fire at will. There we go, free fire. So as soon as they identify hostile targets, whether they've been fired or not, they will shoot. Once again, getting a little bit too fast. I'm just gonna have to, I don't know, let's just trim back just a tad, like there. Don't want to be getting well into the red line too many times. Again, you can overstress these, and at some point the main rotor will just rip itself off. Will drop like a brick, and if you get the external view, you'll see the external rotor suck itself up into the sky for a brief moment before it tumbles down somewhere else as well. Was so close. Again, if I hadn't rolled right, the top left of the rotor there would have clipped that building, and you know, not too long later the helicopter as well. So that's why you can't fly really low just in between buildings. Like, you know, with no rotor, clearly you could. The helicopter itself is not that wide, not much wider than a car really, but perhaps a bus. But with that rotor, it's just not possible. Right, let's have a quick look on the map. How are we doing? Again, in the absence of any... although we do have this beacon here, 380. Let's have a dial in and see if we can pick up that beacon, 380. NDB. I think that these beacons exist in real life with the same frequency. And if you can put up with the disappearing of my guy... ADF frequency. Just check that we're not going to crash. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's keep trending towards the bad guys some. There we go. Right, there's 300 and it looks like we've got a signal. And so in theory now, we should have a pointer towards that beacon, and this is it here, this little... So if we take a look where we are, here we are, here's the beacon, let's see if we can find it. Now this here should verify... Does it show the frequency? Perhaps not. Things are shaking a tad, aren't they? Right, there we go. Roughly this direction, I think. Again, it's so weird how the compass on this particular aircraft work. Slightly different to what you'd expect. It's sort of on a side. See, when you're going a bit too fast, I mean, helicopters shake and vibrate like anything anyway, but especially when you're making the speed, man. View from the top. How are we doing with regards? Oh, we're very close. So these red icons here are enemy insurgents. And I think we can... Yeah, here we go. We can take a picture. Ah! Look at them! Oh, my goodness. Oh, well, at least the guys at the back are running in the way that they should. But the guys at the front... Perhaps something that Eagle Dynamics want to address at some point. It's hilarious as that. Right, how far we got to go? Well, not far off. Yeah, so they're on just the other side of the fence to the south. So there we see the fence that separates the Gaza Strip to the east. I had to really think there. There's the fence to the south, and of course they've got the sea there to the west. So let's continue pressing south. I'm going to cut the power back a little bit. Almost at idle power here. Aircraft pretty much auto-rotating. say, I found, and you know, years ago as well, when I first came across DCS, I had a VR headset years ago. I mean, I still have one, but I just don't use it anymore. VR's crap for making YouTube videos anyway. And I'd put the VR headset on and I'd just fly around somewhere and I'd just chill out. And I found it weirdly just so relaxing. And you know, people say, well, why did you do it for real life? Well, because I was like, I don't know how many £1,000 short of being able to do it. And we are now shooting. So these, so the kill info there that we see on the right is obviously all our minigunner. All that we're doing at this point is trying to fly and provide him a somewhat stable platform to shoot from, while also not getting too close that we take fire. And so far it's going well. You can actually see some of the traces ricocheting off, and we are now taking some incoming fire. We've been able to kill quite a few there. So I think what we're going to do is do a 180 and let the gunner on the right have a little go. Go on then. He's doing pretty well. Can adjust the skill of these AI gunners. I've just left it at the standard, which is actually pretty high versus the enemy AI. That's why our guys are hitting them and they're struggling to hit us really. Whoa! Don't know what that was, but I didn't like the sound of it. I think we may have just been fired at with an RPG, and whoa! We are being fired at with an RPG, and I think both times, thankfully, they missed. Take out the guy with the RPG. That's him. That crack will have been the rocket that was fired at us, breaking the sound barrier as it thankfully missed. I put my controls on there for those that are interested, just to see how much more difficult the hover is versus just flying. But based on the lack of shooting, I suspect the problem's been dealt with. I'm just going to slowly hover in that direction. We've got a gunner on the door there, and yeah, the bodies are piled up, so I think we're all good. So with that, power on, let's go. And we'll ask our gunners to close up. And let's finish up with an auto rotation. So what I'm going to do is cut the engine and do what the helicopter equivalent of gliding. It's been ages since I've done one of these. I think in real life they're supposed to do, I don't know if it's every 6 months or every 12, I forget which, but even in the sim it's been longer for me. So we'll climb up. The best climb speed for a Huey is actually pretty low, so even less than 80 knots. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it could even be as low as 40 or 50. It's not very high. Take a look at the rate of ascent now. At about 3,000 or so feet a minute. It's just dropping off. Oh, we're accelerating again. Come on. There we go. That's pretty good. Alright, so we're about 3,000 feet, so I'm going to level off here, reduce the collective a little bit, get a bit more forward motion, something that would be, I don't know, around there. And so what I'm going to do is, as soon as I cut the power, I need to drop the collective all the way down, basically ride it down, and then just add collective right at the end. And that uses a little bit of energy that's in the propellers to basically cushion our descent at the very last minute. If we do it too late, obviously we hit the ground. If we do it too early, we cushion our descent, we're too high, and then we drop into the ground. So it's all about timing, really. And the way that I'm going to cut the power is just by, I think, flicking the fuel switch should do it. So 3, 2, 1. It looks like the engine's still... Oh, there we go. So dropping the collective, pulling back on the stick, pull the collective just a little bit to pick the nose up. Very low RPMs, as you can hear. We need to get that back. So I need to pull back on the aircraft just a bit. Listen to the propeller, it's picking up. Adds a bit of collective to stop it over speeding. And here we go. So we're in a very steady fall now. We don't want to run out of speed either. So in an aircraft you'd pitch down to gain speed. But on this, listen to the RPMs. If I pitch down, hear how they drop? Even though the speed comes on. And as I pull back, notice the RPMs pitch up in there. So it's a little bit backwards to what you might assume. But you see, we're heading down and the engine again is not running. The propeller is literally auto-rotating in the slipstream. And so we've got that energy there, which is, I guess, the little hand here shows us how fast it's spinning. The big hand for the engine, which you see is off. So I'm thinking for a landing spot now, it's got to be one of these fields here. I'm going to go for this one, so I'm going to start adding collective a little bit. Bit more. Bit more, bit more, bit more. We're down. Slowly reduce collective. Whoa, that went a little far over for my liking. Either way, we're down safely, and we did not lose the main rotor. So let's shut the low RPM warning off. We know. The fuel pump back on. I'm not sure if I can even remember how to start one of these up, so it's something like non-essential bus, I think. Alright, let's see if we can start up then. So hold the starter switch down. Fuel pumps on. Clearly ain't getting it. Somewhere over here. There we go. Start a gen. Letting go of the starter switch. Continuing to add fuel. Change that to the main gen, non-essential. Oh, that's normal. Everything back to normal. There we go. Alright, so that there kind of proves that we're not damaged. Let's try it one more time. And this time it's going to be nowhere near as high. See how much this thing just wants to climb when it's light. And they definitely added a lot more power onto the Huey versus what it had before. Alright, 3, 2, 1, let's cut the fuel switch. There she goes. And there it goes. So dump the collective. I'm going to reset the controls. Adds a little bit of collective just to pick the nose up. Got to reset the trim there. And again, there you see the engine dying down, but the small hand, the rotor is good, the speed's good, and we've got loads of fields to pick from. This is going to be it. Just getting a little turn on to try and reduce a little bit of the speed. Starting to add collective just a tad. Little bit more, little bit more. Little bit more, little bit more. Full collective now. And there we go. Pull back, pull back. Oh! Tell you what, it rocks forward a lot more than I recall. Anyway, with that, we've safely landed. I hope you enjoyed that little video. Yeah, so again, we're talking in here. DCS World in the Huey helicopter on the Sinai map, which is, again, the Egypt one, the Pyramids one. That's what you'll see in all the screenshots. And until next time, wherever in the world you may be, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. From me here in the Huey, take care. Bye-bye.